This video is brought to you by Soundcore. The Space One Pro here, so you now have three options when it comes to headphones from Soundcore. The Space One is your budget option, retails at $99 US. Space Q45 is a mid-range option, $149 retail price, and the Space One Pro is their current flagship, retailing at $199 US. So today I'll be scoring and ranking them in a total of 10 categories against 11 other headphones. Now most of the headphones I have on this ranking are under $100 US, so the Space One Pro have a pretty obvious advantage there. I just haven't ranked any premium headphones yet. So the main comparison today will be against the Space Q45 and Space One, because both of those headphones were decent but had their issues. And most of them have been fixed on the Space One Pro. But let's get into category number one, build quality and fit. So you have two colors to choose from, jet black or cream white, which I have here. And the design is kind of a hybrid between the Space One and Q45. I like the look, it's pretty clean, and the build quality is about on par with the Q45. So better build quality overall compared to the Space One. The main difference there being the quality of the plastics. Now these weigh in quite heavy at 287 grams, but the weight distribution feels great on my head. And the ear cups are nice and spacious, much deeper than the Space One, and a bit softer than the Q45. Even for my giant ears, it's super comfortable, good amount of clamping force, not too tight or loose. There isn't much cushioning on the headband, but I had no issues with pressure on the top of my head or on my jaw as well. The passive noise isolation is super strong here as well. As you can see, the headphone is thicker than the Q45 and Space One, and they've purposefully added in this extended chamber to improve the passive noise isolation, which will in turn improve the noise cancelling strength. We'll see if it does though. And the only issue with this is I noticed my ears get slightly warmer compared to most of the headphones on this ranking, and I think this might be due to the extra passive noise isolation. So that's just something to keep in mind if you're in a pretty hot climate most of the times, or if you're exercising with these, they're just gonna get a bit hotter than most headphones. The standout feature though here is the way that the headphones fold in. This took me a bit of practice, but you can kind of hold it like this. They have a video demonstration and you can fold them into a position that'll really save some space. Soundcore call it the engineered flexi curve design structure. Engineered flexi curve structure. Let's call it super fold. So pretty cool. This does bring some issues though, because when you fold it in like this, it's obviously going to be more compact, but thicker than if you were to put the headphones in a hard case. And I think because of this feature, Soundcore didn't include a hard case this time around, only a soft case, which is interesting because the Q45 include a hard case and they're now a cheaper headphones. So I think they should have included it. I understand with the whole unique flexi curve thing, but you're not getting one here. And I could actually fit the Space One Pro in the Q45 case. And here's a comparison of thickness of what a regular hard case would look like compared to the Space One Pro with the Super Fold. So it depends what you like there. Either way, it's a pretty unique design. The build quality is decent. They're getting a score of 9.5 out of 10. And keep in mind with this scoring here, it's relative to headphones in this price range. Now, category 2 is battery life. And you get a solid 40 hours with noise cancelling on, 60 hours with noise cancelling off. So about middle of the pack there, similar to the Space One. The Q45 does give you 50 hours with noise cancelling on though. But the fast charge is very impressive here. Charge the headphones for 5 minutes and you're gonna get 8 hours of playback. Now I'm not sure if that's with noise cancelling on or off, but still with noise cancelling on, it's gonna be close to about 6 hours. So that's the best you're getting when it comes to fast charge right now for all the headphones that I've tested. And it's twice as fast as a Q45 and Space One. So they're getting a total score here of 9 out of 10. And if you want to compare the specs and all the nitty-gritty details for all the headphones, it's all in the spreadsheet linked below. Now category 3 is controls. So it's the exact same layout here as a Q45 and Space One. So the right ear cup has play pause, volume up and down, and that'll double up as a long hold for track forward and back, and long hold the play pause button for voice assistant. The left ear cup has a power on and off and your ambient control options. You also have the option to add in a double tap to the ambient control button for a quick bass boost without the need to go into the app. And you can also customize the ambient switching to add noise cancelling off into the mix, or just choose 2 options out of the 3. Easy Chat also returns here from the Space One. It was in beta on the Space One, so it has been slightly improved here. You get more customization. So basically how this works is when you start speaking with noise cancelling on, it'll pretty much instantly turn on the transparency mode so you can hear someone talking to you without changing any settings on the ear cup. And when you stop speaking, it'll automatically turn back onto noise cancelling in 5, 10, or 15-second increments, which you can choose. I did notice if I would cough or sneeze, it would quickly switch in. But if I was like clearing my throat, not too loud, or whistling, it wouldn't activate the Easy Chat. So if you're talking to yourself or singing, it's gonna activate. So just keep that in mind. So solid stuff there, but there's quite a few features missing that the Space One had that the Pro doesn't have. And for a Pro model, you kind of expect it. So the first one here is quick attention. So on the Space One, you could hold down on the left ear cup and that would quickly turn on the easy chat feature. Turn your transparency mode on so you could quickly talk to someone. Now, getting rid of that seems kind of fair. Maybe Soundcore realized no one really used it. I personally just take my headphones off if I need to talk to someone. But anyway, the main feature here that's missing is a wearing detection. So on the Space One, you could just take the headphones off. Your music would automatically pause. When you chuck the headphones back on, your music would resume. And that's just not seen here on the Space One Pro. So I don't know, for a Pro model, you'd think it would be here, but it's not. Still, I'm giving them a 9 out of 10 for controls, but the Space One is still in the lead there with their wearing detection. Now, category 4 is connectivity. And you're getting Bluetooth 5.3 here, SBC, AAC, and LDAC high-res for your codecs. You also get multi-point connection, so you can connect 2 devices to the headphones at the same time. And it does have multi-point takeover, but it didn't work all the time for me. So this will work when you have 2 devices connected, you play on one device and it should automatically pause the other device you had on. So I tested this on my iPhone 15 Pro and MacBook Pro M1. Most of the time it would work. Sometimes I would press play on Spotify on my phone and it would start playing and quickly pause, but it works most of the time. When I got a phone call though, I noticed that would always switch over. Now you're still not getting a low latency gaming mode here, so if you're into quick reaction games like shooters, that's going to be quite noticeable. There is a decent amount of latency there, but of course you can just plug in via auxiliary and that'll completely get rid of any latency. You still can't use a USB-C connection for audio though. But unlike most headphones on my ranking, you can use the auxiliary connection whilst your headphones are powered on, so you can still use noise cancelling and transparency, and the sound quality is going to be the same as what they normally sound like with your EQ settings saved. Even when you use the headphones powered off with the auxiliary cable, the sound isn't too bad. It just becomes a little bit muddy when it comes to bass. So they're getting a score of 9 out of 10 here. Now, category 5 is call quality, and I run through 3 tests here: a quiet room, some simulation crowd noise, and a simulation windy city with construction noise, and I use a fan to mimic some wind. And the final score is the average of all 3 tests. So they're getting an overall score here of 8.5 out of 10, currently the highest ranked. Before we run through some samples though, you can mute your microphone when you're on a call simply by holding down on the play pause button. And you can also switch between noise cancelling on, noise cancelling off in transparency mode when you're on a phone call. Surprisingly, a lot of headphones don't allow you to do this. But now here are some samples compared to the Space Q45 and Space One, both up there when it comes to call quality for headphones.
Alright, here's the call quality of the Soundcore Space Q45 in a quiet room.
Alright, here's the call quality of the Soundcore Space One in a quiet room.
Alright, here's the call quality of the Soundcore Space One Pro in a quiet room.
Alright, so now we're going to test how the microphones block out some simulation crowd noise.
Alright, here's a Soundcore Space Q45 with some simulation crowd noise.
Alright, here's a Soundcore Space One with some simulation crowd noise.
Alright, here's a Soundcore Space One Pro with some simulation crowd noise.
Alright, now I've got some city noise, some construction noise, and some simulation wind.
Alright, here's a Space Q45 with some city noise, construction noise, and some simulation wind.
Alright, here's a Soundcore Space One with some city noise, some construction noise, and some simulation noise.
Alright, here's the Soundcore Space One Pro with some city noise, construction noise, and some simulation wind.
Alright, category 6 is app customization and extra features. So I'll touch up on all the features here and go in a bit more detail later. So the Soundcore app is super reliable. You can get it on iOS or Android. So the homepage has your headphone battery, as well as your noise cancelling and transparency controls. Sound effects has all the sound customization, so you have your spatial audio toggle. The Hear ID sound test, which is an easy way to make an EQ for you. Tons of EQ presets, a solid 8-band EQ. You've also got your easy chat customization. Safe volume is pretty cool. It shows you the decibels you're listening to in real time. You also have some limit options on there, so you can limit it to 85 decibels as low as 75 decibels. And be sure to check out the information on there to make sure you're not listening too loud to your headphones for long periods. You'll be surprised how easy it is to cause hearing loss. But now the settings tab at the top right there on the homepage is going to have all your smaller extra features like side tone, a low battery prompt toggle. I don't know what ambient sound is actually for, to be honest. Your connected devices, auto power off options, a guide on how to fold the headphones, which is pretty handy. And then you can add widgets to iOS or Android to quickly change your ambient control settings. So solid stuff here. It's pretty much exactly what you're getting on the Space One. So they're both getting a 9 out of 10 there. All right, category 7 is noise cancelling, and how I test my noise cancelling. I chuck on my soundbar nice and loud, and I'm playing simulation plain noise and crowd noise. So here I'm getting low, middle, high, consistent, as well as inconsistent sounds. And here's the scoring for the plain noise test, the crowd noise test. I then averaged that score and rounded up to the nearest half. So you can see they're getting a score of 9.5 out of 10. Currently the strongest noise cancelling I've tested. Again, these are the most expensive headphone though that I have tested here. But the reason it's so strong is the 4 stages of noise cancelling that they have. That being 6 mics total, up from 4, the extended chamber for better passive noise isolation, the updated algorithm, and more noise resilient drivers. So add that all together, you can see why the noise cancelling is stronger. Now in the plain noise test, this was less noticeable of a difference when it came to that low frequency engine noise, but it did block out the more high frequency hiss sound that also comes from the plain noise test. It was a crowd noise test where that was a more noticeable improvement over the Q45 and all of the headphones really. Again, this scoring is relative to the headphones that I've tested here. I'm sure there's stronger noise cancelling out there from Sony and Bose, but I'm yet to test it, but I have tested a lot of earbuds, so I wanted to compare it to the strongest noise cancelling earbud that I have, which is the Bose Quiet Comfort Ultra, and they're definitely in a different league of noise cancelling strength. Here's my noise cancelling ranking with all my True Wireless earbuds I've tested. I've tested a lot, and these are just the premium ones, but I would slot in the Space One Pro around an 8 out of 10 noise cancelling strength when I was comparing it to some True Wireless earbuds there. So still pretty decent. But let's go back to the headphones here, and there's a lot more to cover when it comes to noise cancelling. First is customization. So you do have 5 levels of strength of noise cancelling if you want to bring it down a little bit. Otherwise, you have an adaptive mode that will automatically adjust the strength based on how loud the noise is around you, which is good to chuck on if you want to save a bit of battery life. You also have an automatic wind noise reduction toggle. So if you turn that on, whenever the mics pick up wind, it'll quickly turn the noise cancelling strength down slightly, so the microphones won't pick up wind as easily. And it's almost instant to react to the wind noise. And when the wind stops, it takes about 7 seconds for the noise cancelling to slowly switch back on. But now we have to talk about a pretty big flaw here, and that's with EQ shift. So EQ shift is how your sound quality changes with noise cancelling on compared to noise cancelling off and compared to transparency mode. This has always been a bit of an issue with the Q45 and Space One, but it's even worse here on the Space One Pro. Thankfully, when you go from noise cancelling on to transparency, there's barely any difference, but chuck on noise cancelling off, and it's like a 20 to 25% bass increase. It almost sounds like a completely different headphone. With the Q45 and Space One, it was about a 15% increase. That's still a little bit too noticeable for me. Usually when you want to be at 5% of a difference, no more than 10%. So if you like to switch between all 3 modes quite often and you want to use noise cancelling off, just keep in mind the sound quality is going to change. The main issue here is that you might have to change the EQ settings when you turn noise cancelling off so you can retain the same sound. So not a deal breaker, just something worth mentioning. Now onto category 8, the transparency mode. So this is a mode that allows you to hear your surroundings. Headphones are usually not known for the best transparency modes, and that kind of follows on with the Space One Pro. I think it's a strong passive noise isolation that made this mode a little bit worse because the microphones are kind of having to work overtime to let in your surroundings in through the actual drivers and into your ears. So it does pick up voice okay. It is slightly muffled, even talking to someone in a quiet environment. I noticed with the upper mids and treble, that was quite lacking. Like a random example, I was cooking with the headphones on and I had some onions cooking and I couldn't hear them sizzling. I thought I was going crazy. I thought my stove was broken. And then I took the headphones off and then I could hear the sizzling. So they're not sizzle approved. That could be a new test. But still the occlusion is fine. So when I was speaking myself, my own voice didn't sound too muffled with a minimal amount of a blocked ear effect. And the white noise is on the moderate side. You are getting less in the Q45. That had quite a bit of it, but it does have more than the Space One. So it kind of has an effect like an air conditioner is on in the distance, more noticeable in a quiet room or a moderately quiet environment. And you do get 5 levels of customization, but my explanation here is with the setting at 5, which is what it is set to at default. Any higher than that, I think there'd be too much white noise anyway. So the total score here is going to be a 7.5 out of 10. Now, category 9 is sound extras. This includes sound leakage, max volume, and wide listening. So starting with sound leakage here, I have a pretty advanced system with my Star Track box, which mimics a head, chuck the headphones on there, play at the same decibel range, and compare all the headphones. And to be honest, in most of my testing, I'm noticing barely any difference with all the headphones on my ranking. I did have the Space One ranked pretty high when it came to sound leakage. The higher the score, the less sound leakage. But when I compared the Space One to the Space One Pro, the Pro model did leak slightly less sound, which I kind of expected due to that strong passive noise isolation I was getting. Now in my max volume test, I got just over 97 decibels. Keep in mind, I'm not testing with a seal here. I don't have equipment to test with the proper seal just yet, but I can still get an idea of the loudest headphone comparing them all here, but it's not going to be the true maximum decibel range with a seal. Just keep that in mind. Still, it's slightly louder than the Q45 and Space One. And when I was cranking these at those high volumes, I had no issues with distortion. You can crank them at max volume and get basically no distortion, which is great. You definitely don't need to venture above even 80% volume. That's getting incredibly loud there. Please protect your hearing, people. And finally, when it comes to the wide listening, as I mentioned before, you can do it via auxiliary, you can do it with the headphones powered on, still use noise cancelling and transparency, and it retains the great sound that you get with the headphones powered on via Bluetooth. So they nailed it here. They have the highest score with a 10 out of 10. But now onto the final round, sound quality. So to explain the sound of the Space One Pro, we need to take it back to the Q45 and the Space One. So the Q45 sounded okay. The main standouts were solid instrument separation and a nice open sound. But the bass and the treble was a bit thin, and I found it quite hard to fix in the EQ. The Space One went down more of the V-shape kind of tuning, so powerful bass, a little bit overpowering. The mids were quite recessed though, and the treble had nice detail, but the sound was quite closed in. I honestly enjoyed the sound of it, but if you wanted to fix it in the EQ, you could really only bring those recessed mids up so much, and to get a balanced tuning, it was pretty challenging. But you could get better sounding headphones at a cheaper price. So the Space One Pro pretty much fixes all of this. So I would say the stock tuning is closer to the Space One. So the bass is a little bit over the top. For my personal taste, it's a little bit muddy, a bit on the bloated side. So in the EQ, I dial down the 100 Hertz to -3 decibels and 200 Hertz to -1 decibel. And this cleans it up quite a lot. It still is a little bit over the top. It has a slight amount of boom to it, but it's honestly much cleaner than the stock tuning. And now we're all good. You still get that strong, powerful bass, but there's more of a focus on the deep sub bass rather than the bloated mid bass. The mid-range though is massively improved over the Space One. So vocals just sound fuller. They are still slightly recessed, but compared to the Space One, it's a massive improvement. It's still a pretty smooth mid-range, which I don't mind. But the biggest standout here is the treble, because now you're getting a nice amount of detail, but some nice upper treble sparkle that was completely missing on the Q45 and the Space One. And it's also tuned to a level that doesn't get harsh or sibilant, even at high volumes. And you also get that nice open soundstage that the Q45 had. So you're really getting the best aspects of sound that the Q45 and Space One had combined to the Space One Pro. So I'm giving them a final score of 9 out of 10. I almost scored them a 9.5, but there are some issues because it is more of a V-shaped tuning, but it's just really well done. Because I like myself a slightly bass boosted tuning, but I still want to retain as much mid-range and treble clarity as possible. And that's exactly what you can get here. It's the kind of tuning that's going to work really well with bass heavy music, but if you're into rock and metal, even classical instrumentation, it's still going to sound rich and full and clean as well if you EQ it to a slightly more balanced level. Some things I don't like though is that it is still a little bit tricky to get the sound to a more balanced or natural level. I really don't like in the EQ when I would boost the mids or boost the treble, it would bring the volume down quite dramatically, so I couldn't really tell the change I was making in the EQ. And I understand this is to reduce distortion, but I haven't noticed this on previous Soundcore headphones or true wireless earbuds. So even balancing out the volume when making these changes, I noticed I really couldn't bring the mid-range up to a more boosted level. I found the best way to get it to a more balanced level is mainly just by bringing the bass down to -4 decibels or even below that, and you can get them much more balanced. Also, the Hear ID sound test didn't really work for me. This is a different sound test than the previous releases. So you run through a quick test and like a preference test, but for me, just like it boosted the bass quite a lot and then it made it even more bass heavy. So I don't know, it didn't sound very good for me. And the spatial audio is, well, it's spatial audio. It kind of brings the sound in front of you, but it makes it all muddy. You lose detail. It kind of reduces the soundstage. Depends on the song you listen to. It might work well for movies, but I think spatial audio for headphones still has quite a far way to go. Still, the main thing here is that the sound is great. So to give you a better idea, I'm going to compare them to all the headphones that I have with a score of 8.5 out of 10. So the One More Sonoflow also have a slightly bass boosted tuning, but the mid-range on those headphones are much more forward. These get clearer mids, clearer vocals, but it's a treble and soundstage that really is a standout on the Space One Pro. With the Earphone Wave Pro, after I EQ them to my liking, they're probably the closest to the actual sound quality of the Space One Pro. Still, it's a Space One Pro that has better instrument separation, soundstage, and better upper treble sparkle. But then there's the Edifier W830NB, which is a completely different tuning. It's more on the balanced side with the stock tuning. So the bass has more punch to it. It's more balanced. I find after EQing those, I can get them sounding pretty decent. But comparing those two there, it's really like comparing if you like a balanced sound or a slightly more bass boosted tuning. I prefer the Space One Pro. So as usual, it comes down to personal preference. And also keep in mind, the Space One Pro are double the cost of most of these headphones. So they have an advantage there. But that wraps up all 10 categories. And before we go into the final score, Like I said, this is just my scoring system, it has my own bias in there, but it allows me to compare all the small details nice and easily, so hopefully it helps you out as well. And you can download the spreadsheet for free, linked below. On there you get every score, notes for each score. You can easily compare the specs. There's a core quality sheet with all 3 tests, and the personalized scoring is nice and easy. Just fill out a number in the importance column and that'll multiply the entire category. 0 to get rid of it, 2 to double it, 4 to quadruple it, and that'll change the total score for all the headphones. But now the final scores are in and the Space One Pro finishes with 89.5 out of 100. Like I said, they're double the price of most headphones here, so I was kind of expecting a high score. But I need to give it to Soundcore here. They really did refine all the issues that the Space Q45 and Space One had. The only issues to keep in mind is that you don't get a hard case included, the transparency mode isn't great, and there's no wearing detection. And the tuning is on the bassier side, which you might not like. I definitely like them, so these headphones are an easy recommendation from me. And if you're looking for some more solid Soundcore products, check out my Boom 2 Plus review, one of the best value, powerful speakers you can get right now. So check that out. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Stay picky, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye now.